Hi guys, welcome to our recorded discussion for the subject Campus Journalism. For this video, we will talk about editorial writing by exploring the different issues using the process writing approach. For this type of writing editorial, it is an article that presents the newspaper's opinion in a certain issue and it reflects the majority vote of the editorial board. And then, much in the same manner of a lawyer, di ba, kung napapansin natin, or kung nagbabasa tayo ng mga editorial writings, editorial writers actually build on an argument and try to persuade readers to think the same way they do. So, hindi kaya talaga nila na mag-agree yung mga readers. And editorials are meant to influence public opinions, promote critical thinking, and sometimes cause people to take action on an issue. Kasi parang ang dating ng article mo could be a way to persuade the public or yun yung maging eye-opener for the others or kahit doon sa mga readers natin. Ano yung pag-aaralan natin for this topic, guys? Let's start with the editorial page. So ano ba tong editorial page na to? The editorial page of any newspaper is the voice of the editorial staff and the readers. Kaya 'di ba pag mga talaga editorial writers are the one who is the voice of the public and sometimes sila talaga yung nagiging eye-opener. And it expresses the opinion of whatever the management of the publication feels in relation to the present occasion. So, you have to consider then yung mga staff and editors if they agree, if that would be the topic na pag-uusapan nyo or i-voice out nyo. And it's somewhat like the objectives. Ito kasing objectives ng editorial. First one is to explain and interpret the news, to put it on its proper perspective, to analyze it, and to draw conclusions from that analysis. So, ibig sabihin, hindi lang talaga madali yung sa editorial writing. Since you are not only giving facts, but you have to provide na proper perspective na ma-analyze talaga ng mga readers natin for them to draw conclusion from that certain analysis na or situation or the way you explain it in your article. Then the second one is to persuade the readers to follow a course of action that the newspaper believes is for the public good regardless of party interests involved. I actually, once I'm reading a newspaper talaga, aside from the news, I really love to read dun sa editorial na part since yung mga editorial writers talaga ay magagaling. And if you could study on how they write, they're really good in presenting yung mga perspectives and it really makes you realize something, reflect. So sobrang daming pwedeng mangyari kasi yan yung mga ang objectives as editorial. So later on, after this discussion, you'll be able to write your own editorial na type of article. And I hope that what you're going to learn here for this discussion is you can apply it. We have here the functions of editorial writer. So dito muna tayo sa mga basic information about editorial writing. For editorial writer, the function is explaining the news. Of course, you're not just merely providing facts or mga opinion or providing yung mga ideas, but you need to explain the news to them. Kasi paano man mapapersuade yung mga readers mo, 'di ba? Kung hindi mo naman na-explain ng maayos and filling the background, forecasting the future, and passing the moral judgment. Passing the moral judgment in a way na hinahayaan mong mag-reflect or ma-analyze ng mga readers mo yung mga sinasabi mo na based din sa mga facts and based din sa truth. And then, here are the principles of editorial writing na kailangan natin isa puso kung gusto talaga natin maging editorial writer. And it would be good then na next time kung kayo yung magiging campus paper advisor sa specific school na pagtuturuan nyo, you'll be able to use these principles para makita talaga kung sino yung pinaka-best writer. Kasi 'di ba, pipili ka din ng mga staff mo doon sa campus paper nyo. So, it's better na handa na kayong pumili kung sino man yung pinaka-best na yon. You're not just choosing those students na good in grammar or good sa communication skill or writing skills. There are certain code of principles na dapat nakikita natin sa mga specific writer na yon. The first one, the code of principles that emphasizes the scientific method in arriving at and presenting the truth. The editorial writer should present facts honestly and fully. So, dapat hindi tayo nagkukulang. Kasi minsan, pag kulang yung binigay mo, diba, how could you persuade other people to believe in you? Yung tipong mas maganda yung na-justify mo yung binibigay mong idea para mag-agree sila with you. And then the editorial writer should draw objective conclusions from the stated facts, of course. Dapat may conclusion ka na ibibigay kasi yun nga yung dun you are persuading other people by presenting facts, tapos binabato mo sila ng facts. And in that way, after giving the facts dun sa sinulat mo or sa article mo, you could now state your conclusion, diba? And basing them upon the way of evidence and upon his considered concept of the greatest good. Lalo na pag sobrang daming information about that specific news or article na gagawin mo. For example, about education. Sobrang dami na yan kasi sobrang tagal na naman na ang term na education and it's not just today, diba? So, ikaw as editorial writer, you should have base ka sa weight of evidence. Kung ano yung mga ebidensya or truth na alam mo ay valid na talaga at yun talaga ang pinaka mas mabigat sa lahat kasi hindi naman pwedeng isusulat mo lahat ng facts or information dun sa article mo Of course, you have to weigh kung ano ba talaga yung pinaka mahalaga. And that would serve as kasi you are there to persuade other people. So, mas magaganda yung evidence na sinabi mo dun sa writer. Mas effective yung dating sa readers mo. And the editorial writer should never be motivated by personal interest, nor use his influence to seek special favors for himself or for others. Yan, dapat talaga pag ikaw yung editorial writer, you should not seek, use your influence to seek special favors for himself or for others. Hindi tayo yung pinapakita na may kinikilingan tayo or may favoritism tayo kasi mahalata talaga yun ng readers natin. And hindi dapat tayo na-motivate ng mga personal interest. Minsan kasi, di ba, pag personal interest masyado ay although, kasi alam mo yun, naka-clouded yung mind natin or minsan we could not really see the facts kasi we're focusing on something that we are having interest with. Kaya, we should be careful with it. Pero hindi naman sinasabi na bawal talaga kasi later on ay kailangan din talaga, pag ikaw editorial writer, should be having it in your, mas maganda pag ikaw nagsusulat, pag alam mo yung certain issue na yun or certain na events na yun. And then the editorial writer should realize that he is not infallible. And then, the editorial writer should regularly review his own conclusions in the light of all obtainable information. It's somewhat like the same then yung tipong pagkatapos mo lang na magsulat ay hindi mo na-reviewin. Mas maganda talaga pag nakikita mo yon after how many days, for example, na-publish na yung writing mo. For you to really improve more, dapat binabasa din natin at tinitingnan yung mga writings natin kasi minsan ganun yun even I do it in my own before na minsan nakala mo sobrang ganda na lahat ng sinabi mo or mga sinulat mo, But then after a couple of days, may kita mo may mga mali. And then, mali yung pag-conclude ko in this type of, doon sa article, sa part ng article na sinulat ko. Kaya mas maganda na habang ikaw editorial writer, you keep on reading, then regularly review din yung mga nasulat mo. Kasi in that way, it will really be improved. Tapos makikita mo na kung saan talaga yung mali mo. Kasi minsan, sa sobrang pag-check natin or focus tayo sa isang araw na i-check yan. Tapos hindi na natin napapansin yung pagkakamali natin. Kaya it's better talaga na nare-review din ng other ng mga editors or other writers para makikita yung mali. And the editorial writer should have the courage of well-founded conviction and democratic philosophy of life. So, dapat democratic yung philosophy of life natin. Lalo na pag, kasi diversity of readers, parang lang yan, sa mga students natin, iba-iba tayo ng estudyante. Even yung readers, they are still the same din. They have diversity or may mga differences din tayo, even our religions or sa mga philosophies in life. So, for us, kung editorial writer ka, you should be democratic enough. Yung wala ka dapat kinikilingan, kaya nga 'di ba, hangga't maaari ay iiwasan natin yung mga personal interest natin kasi malay mo may mga bagay tayo na pinapaniwalaan na hindi naman talaga nag-a-agree yung ibang tao or ibang readers. And you have to be careful kasi nga as editorial writer, you are writing an article that serve as the voice of the whole staff ng mga editors or dun sa school paper niyo. Of course, you are not representing lang sa sarili mo, kundi you are representing the whole school, yung kabuuan ng management na nirepresent mo. Kaya, dapat i-consider natin yung others or yung kung saan man tayo nagiging part ng team. Hindi lang dapat sa sarili natin. And should support his colleagues in their adherence to highest standards of profession integrity. Yan. Napakahalaga talaga yung profession integrity in terms of writing since lalo na to, ang editorial writing talaga most of the time ay nakikita yung mga mali dito. And then there are other people who will really disagree. Kaya mas maganda na batuhin mo sila ng mga evidences, mga mabibigat na ebidensya. And here are the types of editorial you could use para makapag-start ka na kung ano ba talagang isusulat mo. Let's talk about these types of editorial, kung saan ka mas magiging masaya. While the goal of all editorials is to share an opinion and persuade an audience, there are editorial style naman with variations. The different types depend upon the goal of the article and can be divided into 4 categories. So, ano-ano tong mga 4 categories na to? The first one is an interpretive. Ano tong interpretive? And we have critical and persuasive, and lastly is praising. Now, let's talk first about interpretive. Later on, guys, I'll be providing an examples na mga sinulat na mga editorials para makita niyo yung pagkakaiba. When we say interpretive, it's an editorial explains and provides background information on an event or issue. This type of editorial aims to raise awareness and discuss how the topic is relevant to the readers. So at this moment, interpretive, you are providing information. Raising awareness, yung ginagawa mo dito. So, pwede ba yan sa'yo? Gusto mo ba ng editorial ay raising more the awareness of other people? So, there are lots of issues na pwede nating gamitin dyan, lalo na pag interpretive. And then, the next one is critical naman. The critical format focuses on the various causes of a problem and suggests a solution. For example, you might critique a policy that relates to your issue to advocate for a specific change. Di ba, napaka-critical. It means that you are providing a critique for something like an issues or even if it's a policy to advocate for a specific change. medyo mahirap dito sa critical na to pag halimbawa if it's in sa campus paper. Tapos, yung other students wanted to, may gusto silang i-express or gustong baguhin na policy sa isang specific na school. Halimbawa, may isang batas na ayaw nila or policy sa school. So, they will write about it. Tapos, in that way, yung critical kasi, you are critiquing and then you are, parang pinapersuade mo yung readers mo talaga na mag-agree sa'yo. At dapat i-change yung policy na yan. So, that's really a big deal pag, lalo na you are writing or you are the voice of the school paper, tapos nagre-represent ka din sa school niyo mismo. So, medyo mabigat-bigat siya. But then, if you could see talaga that you are right or nakikita mo na marami naman talagang nag-a-agree at you have specific evidences dapat meron kang binabato mo sila ng facts and yung mga information that could really raise their awareness. Kasi minsan baka hindi nakikita ng administrators or other schools or sa part man ng administrators na belong ka. So, of course, we are always open for that. But still, you have to be very careful, lalo na pag kayo na yung teacher, tapos yung mga estudyante, yung part ng school paper mo is gustong isulat to, gustong magreklamo about the school. So, we really need to be careful for it. Just see to it at minsan wag din nating pigilan yung mga bata na lalo na pag alam mo na tama naman sila. Even if sa pakiramdam mo ay parang nakakasira. But still, it needs to be reviewed lang naman. Hindi lang naman ikaw sa campus paper. You seek some advice then for the distinguished teachers or mga experienced teachers na belong ka sa school na yan. Okay? And next is the persuasive. This type of editorial appeals directly to the reader and encourages them to take action. And the persuasive format focuses on the reader's ability to change a situation by following your advice. Ayan. Pag persuasive, we are providing an advice para sumunod yung mga readers mo. And it should something that's appealing sa mga readers. Kasi paano mapapasunod mga readers mo kung hindi naman appealing masyado yung ginawa mong article. And lastly, guys, is the praising. A praising editorial shows appreciation for a person or organization based on their involvement in an issue. So, pwede kang gagawin mo doon is more on praising. So, nasa inyo na yun, guys, kung anong klase ng editorial ang iyong gagawin. So, later on, I'll be providing a specific topic sa activity nyo. Tapos, kayo na bahala kung anong klase ng editorial yung gagawin mo. If it's more on praising, persuasive ba, critical, or interpretive. Now, let's take a look at more examples, guys. Pag sa informative, here's an example ng editorial. Informative are those which just give information, review, or announce certain facts or events. Halimbawa dito, the need for population education. As you could see here, the poverty, high cost of living. Let's check din guys kung paano ginawa ng editorial writer. Paano niya present. Poverty, high cost of living, school crisis, lack of job opportunities in front of common people. Millions of children are victims of undernourishment and deficiency diseases that shorten their life and harm their mental development due to the failure of parents to send all of their children to school. Illiteracy rates are high and are still increasing. So, wow! I love how this author talaga ay nakapag-start ng una pa lang, 'di ba? Napaka-informative na, and there are lots of researches na pinagsama niya. Imagine that, from the poverty, high cost of living, sobrang dami niyang na-inform doon para lang makuha kung bakit kailangan ng population education. Diba? Sobrang ganda ng unang pasok pa lang ng issue or pagturo pa lang niya. And this is actually a good one, guys, as educators na ang sinusulat din nating editorial type of writing as informative talaga for the students kasi we are here to educate. And then many of us have these problems, but very few are aware that excessive population growth is responsible for these pressures as well as for lowering of the quality of human resources and development, especially as regards educational standards. Ang galing, 'di ba? Many of us have these problems. So, included ka na as a readers na lahat talaga tayo may problems of it. And by choosing this type of topic pa lang, 'di ba? Parang kabuuan to, hindi naman specific na mga tao lang na apektuhan. But this one, be it poor or nasa higher ano ka man level of sa kung mayaman ka man, but still you are affected. Tapos part ka din ng population. Sobrang galing ng editorial writer na to. And then the inclusion of population education, the school curriculum is then the answer to the need of the younger crop who are bound to face the reality of parenthood in the near future. So, nagkaroon na siya ng conclusion or nag-present siya ng solution for that specific problem. And let's see, basic cultural values concerning the individual, his family, the society, and the nation can be effectively brought into the extent desired through population education. And finally, creating an awareness about population is a challenge that Philippine education has to face right now. Right now. For time is against us. That's true. O, diba? Mararamdaman nyo dito na yung writer talaga, hindi lang siya nagbibigay ng information, but raising the awareness na bakit kailangan na to. Diba? It face right now, and for this time is against us kasi tumatakbo naman talaga yung oras. And time wasting is resource wasting. I love that. By just, diba, nag-present siya ng solution, tapos bakit kailangan? Andun yung awareness. Pinaramdam niya sa atin na mga readers na we should have a sense of urgency na kailangan talaga nating gawin tung ibigay yung need for population education. This idea will help in adopting a small family norm and will ensure good health for the mother, better welfare of the children, economic stability of the family, and a bright future for the continuing generations. 'Di ba? Timely yung ginagawa niyang timely yung ginawa niyang article na to. It's somewhat like sobrang parang maiksi lang, pero but then the thoughts are there and mapapansin mo talaga kung gaano ka coherent or mahalaga yung mga sinabi niya doon. Diba? Ito yung sinasabi ko kanina na dapat tinitimbang natin yung mga evidences, and that's true naman, diba? Yung mga sinasabi niya may pinagbabasihan naman talaga, at there are researches that was made then talaga for this type of issue. Kaya, ang galing talaga nung informative type of writing na to. And then, meron din tayong interpretative, those which explains or bring out the significance on an event, situation, or idea. So, interpretive, kasama din siya sa somewhat like informative. Pero pwede nyo ding isulat to, attitude towards study. We are in school because we want to learn. Yung lead pa lang niya, ang galing na. We want to learn. Our study is for our own benefit and not to accommodate someone else. As such, we have to relate it to our own aims or ambitions in life. Ang gusto niyang mangyari talaga dito, it's individual type of interpreting something or explaining a certain event about study. And we should not think of study merely in terms of quizzes, recitations, homework, term papers, and reports. Putting evaluation upon it in terms of 5, 10, or 20 years from now will give it more meaning to us. The facts, ideas, and principles we acquire now are the stuff with which we will do our thinking in the future. Let's remember too that how we learn is sometimes more important than what we learn. Love it. An efficient working method will serve us throughout life, but many of the things we learn will just be forgotten. That's true. And being systematic about study will do a lot. Habit then comes to our aid. With just a few weeks to go before classes end, we hope these few reminders will result to a better attitude towards study. Wow, I love it. parang ang gusto niya mangyari, yung solution niya na present niya doon, is that how we learn is sometimes more important than what we learn. Galing. It's title pa lang, andun na attitude towards study. Kung nasa attitude natin yun, how are we going to study, tapos being systematic about the study will do a lot. Imagine mo yan guys, hindi siya nagsasabi na ito, tama to. But then, he really, the writer actually present an information, tapos ini-interpret niya yung specific na topic or title na ginawa niya or pinili niya. Ang gagaling. So, I hope na nakikita ko yan sa type of writing nyo, kung ano man yung pipiliin nyo talaga na topic. And editorials of crusade and reform, ito yung mga persuasive or want some change, those which criticize certain conditions, then suggest a solution or change, or which just give a message of reform without necessarily pointing out a problem or a bad condition. Ayun, di talaga sila specifically naman na nagpo-point out ng specific problem or bad condition. The way of moss desks. Student judges who inspected every room in connection with operation cleanliness found out that most of the desks had scratches and or ink spots. One can hardly write on them without a thick sheet of paper for a pad. Outside the classrooms, some desks are placed for the student to sit on. Students really take advantage of them. They sit on top of the desk and place their muddy shoes on the seats instead. When the 220 new desks for passing line will be made available for the students' use, will they end up the way most desks go? Yun, galing no? Based on observation and based on evidences talaga na may nakikita. And hindi lang siya mismo nakikita, of course, diba? Even most of the people, ganyan talaga ang nangyayari sa mga, sa realidad talaga yan eh, yung present niyang evidences. And, I love it. Hindi talaga siya nagpo-point out ng problem, sinistate lang niya, and but then, it suggests a solution or change. Suggest siya by ending it with a question. Yun, question pa lang, di ba? That's something na persuade mo or parang yan eh, eye-opener na, di ba? Kahit sobrang iksi lang, pero dun sa last, grabe na yung impact na ginawa ng writer. When the 290 new desks for passing line will be made available for the students' use, will they end up the way most desks go? So, there's something wrong with what's going on about the desk, di ba? Kasi minsan napapabayaan lang yung mga estudyante na gawin na lang yung gusto nila sa mga desk nila, lalo na sa mga public schools, diba? And editorials on special occasions, those which are written to give meaning to occasions such as Christmas, Labor Day, hero's birthday, and other significant events. Nasa iyo. Kung gusto mo yung this type of occasion. And New Year thoughts. New Year is the final of the Yuletide season, which is accompanied by a spirit of joy and goodwill that can only be understood, never fully explained. It is enough to feel the spirit of it, that which illumines our souls, the spirit that transforms into reality that Christmas message, peace on earth to men of goodwill. Wow, ay galing. Galing nung niya, introduction niya, sobrang meaningful, tapos napaka full of substance talaga, 'di ba? Ang galing. Sinabi din niya na accompanied by the spirit of joy and goodwill that can only be understood but never fully explained. Ang galing. Kasi in that way, 'di ba? Parang hinayaan niyang mag-agree yung readers niya. Kasi hindi naman talaga siya fully explained but still only being understood. Kasi pag Yuletide spirit talaga, if it's more on the spirit and joy and goodwill, more on sa feelings na nagsasabi na hindi man talaga yung mind. Kasi ang sa joy, yung heart talaga din yung nakakaramdam. And it is enough to feel the spirit of it, that which illumines our soul. Galing, no? Parang in-explain na niya yung about sa a New Year thoughts. New Year, yung unang pasabog pa lang niya, maganda na. And you will really continue reading the passage or yung sinulat niya. And when Jesus was sent to redeem mankind, the three kings offered him the choicest gift of their kingdoms. And since that time, the season has been the time to give, to receive, and man has since felt what pleasure it is to give and what joy to receive. A new year is an occasion and reason for showing the fine sentiments that we feel. It is the time for renewal of friendships, for making bond of kinship stronger and firmer. And New Year's time is the most fitting time to bury all grudges between friends, neighbors, classmates, relatives, co-workers, and it is time to forget all wrong suffered and all injuries received, to let bygones be bygones, and this constitutes the real essence of the season. Love, the greatest and finest of man's sentiments, must reign in all our hearts. Galing. Una pa lang, tapos ending, di ba? Napaka-meaningful talaga nung binigay niyang thoughts. Ito yung kagandahan pag special occasions eh. Minsan common na yung mga sinasabi. But then, I do love yung mga editorial writers talaga. Kaya gusto ko din basahin yung mga thoughts nila. Kasi nga, it's somewhat like, full of evidences. Somewhat like parang opinion lang, pero tama yung sinasabi nila. That's how it is. So, pwede kayong magsulat about it, like special occasions, kung ano man yung gustong piliin nyo din. And editorials that praise or commend. Those that express appreciation for a worthy action. So, we have here, commitment. Yan, napaka-big word, commitment. Maraming takot sa commitment. Determination, self-confidence, and the desire to seek the truth guided our struggle to restore the campus paper. That's true. And the Josephine Journal is our victory, a product of the concerted effort of the Caswell Journal staffers and the whole CAS student tree amid tremendous hardships we encountered along the way. We rejoice with the student tree in having a paper we have been working towards since last year and a paper we have been longing for since the CAS JO Chronicles sees publication. We are hoping that this paper will serve as our voice in upholding students' interest, which shall be guided by the principles of truth, justice, freedom, and democracy. Together, we have won a venue to voice out our grievances, victories, opinions, and ideas. Together, we will uphold the freedom of speech and strengthen the unity of the studentry in responding to the call of our times. Together, we will protect the rights we have acquired through our struggle. This is the commitment of the Josephine Journal. Wow. Galing, no? Parang pinipresent na, ni-express na yung appreciation talaga for those writers who did a good job, tapos who maintained the job then. And after all the hardships, kasi totoo yan, determination pa lang, self-confidence, seeking the truth, tapos struggle. Sobrang daming pwedeng mangyari para ma-restore lang isang campus paper. And by the way, guys, I'm so proud of you upon reading yung sa mga ginawa niya sa campus papers ay magaganda din yung mga ginawa niyo. And for this, you can do it naman sa editorial writing wherein you can praise or commend yung mga writers. And we'll have the editorials offer entertainment, those which are written to give in a light vein, primarily to entertain readers. First day in school. Ito talaga lagi lalo na pag sa first month ng pagpasok ng school year. First day in school, the first day in high school for pupils who have been used to having all their classes in a single room is rather like their first day in a big city crowded with different kinds of people. There is confusion and a bewildered crowd never heard of before. I love it. And on our own first day in high school, we were elbowed about from one room to another, usually losing our way and arriving late. That's true, di ba? Nangyayari talaga yan. And I love that type of evidence na binigay niya. Then we were told that the section in which we had finally found our way was too large, that we must find another room on a different floor. Totoo yan. Lalo na pag may second floor yung mga schools nyo. And when we got on the wrong stairway, the older pupils laughed. When bells rang for classes to begin, we would stand still, and when they rang for dismissal, we would sit still. By the end of the first day, we had decided that higher learning was no good and we might as well quit. Yet, as you see, we are still here, so we must have changed our minds. Wow, I love it. Kaya pag nagsusulat kayo talaga guys, pag ano ba, editorial writer ka, and you write about first day in school, tapos nagme-mention ka doon ng mga specific ideas or information na hindi naman talaga totoong nangyayari. Sa sasabihin mong we must find another room on a different floor, tapos biglang isa lang naman yung may second floor na building. So, we have to be careful. Ito yung sinasabi na kahit editorial siya, ay based pa rin siya sa mga facts. Dapat more on mga katotohanan yung mga kinikwento natin or sinasabi natin doon. Okay? And editorial staff, editorials of tribute. Dr. Estrada, Dr. Januario Estrada, 78, considered the Dean of Filipino Surgeons, died yesterday, leaving behind a stunning record of service in Philippine medicine. Since obtaining his medical degree in 1918, Dr. Estrada had been with the Philippine General Hospital and the University of the Philippines College of Medicine throughout his career. Until his death, he remained an active member of various medical organizations, the same group which he at one time another helped organize or headed as president. So, ang ganda nung niya, ang ginawa ng writer. It's just short, pero andun lahat ng pinakamahalagang impormasyon talaga that made Dr. Estrada a distinguished na surgeon with an outstanding record. Magaling. And then, editorial liners, meron din nito guys. It's short, witty paragraphs, either serious or light. We have here, love is looking up to find comfort in mother's smile. It's running and kissing father's hand to deserve his package. It's thinking and dreaming about a loved one day and night. It's doing things to please the other. It's answering and writing love letters on perfume paper. It's crying and brooding over careless words. It's rejoicing and walking in clouds and hearing sweet things. It's loving happily day by day. Wow, galing no? Kahit short lang, pero andun lahat ng thoughts on what love is. The author or yung editorial writer, hindi lang niya nagsistate ng facts doon. But upon reading it, you will really feel, kasi andun yung essence ng ang galing ng descriptive writing niya, diba? Meron pang this part, it's answering and writing love letters on perfume paper. So, na-imagine na natin yon. It's crying and brooding over careless words. It's rejoicing and walking on clouds, on hearing sweet things. Diba? Feel mo kung what love is. And why wait? If we suddenly discovered the late Christopher Morley once observed that we had only 5 minutes left to say all we wanted to say, every telephone booth would be occupied by people trying to call up other people to stammer that they love them. Why wait until the last 5 minutes? Wow, galing. It's more on love. Diba? And I know guys, kung makagawa kayo ng ganyan, magagaling pa yung pwede nyong magawa. And I'm expecting for it. Wag naman kayo mag-pressure. Of course, you still have to try. Tapos, keep on practicing lang. And you would really master, if you want to master, kung gusto mo talaga maging editorial writer. And whether you are writing for a class assignment or a major publication, understanding the goal of your editorial will help guide your tone and the direction of your argument. After determining the category of your editorial, you can now begin to write confidently to influence an audience. Now, nasa inyo na yan kung anong gusto nyo. Entertainment ba? If you want to have to write it with information, giving information, maging persuasive ka ba? Now, let's understand the writing process. Once you know, guys, the type of editorial you want to write and the basic components you need to include, you can begin the writing process. If you're seeking an editorial for a class or work assignment, refer back to the prompt frequently during the planning process. An editorial with specific classroom guidelines will likely be very different than an opinion piece published in a magazine or newspaper. Regardless of why you are writing your editorial, you can use these steps to create a strong foundation for a successful editorial paper. Una guys, decide on a topic. Kailangan pag-iisipan talaga kung anong gusto mong topic. Tapos, research your topic, create an outline, start to write, and lastly, proofread. Okay? We always need to proofread our work. And let's start with planning what to write. Choosing a topic, so you can choose to tackle any of the issues, guys, events, phases appearing in the news, but try as much as possible to make the editorial acquire the following values. Dapat it should be current and timely, substantive, offers insight free of conflict of interest. Dapat iwasan natin yung personal interest natin at pagkakaroon ng conflict with others, lalo na pag kulang naman natin yung mga ebidensya or mga information na binibigay natin. So, it should be current and timely. Nasa inyo na yun kung anong gusto nyo isusulat about editorial writing, guys, activity natin na to. So, if you're about pandemic or online schooling, nasa inyo na yan. And, writing, planning what to write, obtain background material and information about your topic, observe, read, and review. And interview, of course. Identify your purpose and audience. Will it merely inform or do you want to interpret ba, to criticize something, suggest, reform, urge readers to action, and then explain or interpret the way the newspaper covered a sensitive or controversial subject. Criticize, constructively actions. Guys, habang nag-criticize, it should be constructive and decisions or situations. Praise to commend people or an organization for a job well done. Yan ha. I-praise yan. So, hanggat maaari, if you're commending, dapat kung kahit maraming mga information, pero piliin natin kung ano yung mabibigat at gawin natin kung ano man yung karapat-dapat para sa tao na gusto natin i-commend, and persuade to get the readers immediately see the solution and not the problem. Ayun guys. Pag nagpa-persuade ka, tandaan natin pag editorial writer ka, let the readers see immediately the solution, hindi yung problem. Huwag tayong mag-focus dun sa problem. Kaya minsan dito nagkakaproblema yung mga campus papers pag may editorial writing na about sa school or other groups, pinofocus na nila sa problem lang nila, di ba? Instead of making the readers see first immediately the solution. So, laging solution yung dapat nating pinu-point out dun sa sinusulat natin pag editorial writing. The per-writing, planning what to write. Of course, brainstorming ideas, finding ideas. Ito guys, free writing. Pag minsan kasi 'di ba hirap na hirap tayong magsulat pag kaka-start pa lang, daming pumapasok na mind. In that way guys, don't be conscious muna kung ano yung grammar, mali-mali ba yung grammar ko or ito kaya ang best na sasabihin ko. Free writing or brainstorming guys, you just have to express, tas write ka lang, free writing lang. Then after that, ika-cluster mo na yon. Kung ito dapat uuna ko, ito dapat yung introduction ko. Kaya nga 'di ba pag sa talaga, once you are writing article, it doesn't take isang upuan lang. Dapat pinag-iisipan yan. Dapat ay you are clustering, may free writing ka para ma-identify mo kung ano para nung pinaka-best na magiging introduction mo at paano mo ma-explain yung mga certain topics or ideas mo. Paano mo siya mas magiging appealing dun sa readers mo. And organize information. Ito na yung after mo mag-create, mag-organize ka na, choosing the details, tapos i-order mo yung details. Kung unahin mo ba yung pinaka-importante, and then sa dulo na yung hindi na masyado. And then drafting, writing the first draft. Editorials usually have 3 parts, guys. You have the beginning, the body, and the conclusion. Lagi yan. Pag nag-express tayo ng thoughts natin and ideas. Pag sa editorial writing, and not just editorial writing, always naman sa kahit saang writing, diba? How do I begin? Paano tayo mag-bibigin, guys? The beginning, editorial lead. The editorial lead, like in the news story, guys, it will showcase of the write-up, However, it is not considered the heart of the story, ha? Unlike dun sa news, kasi yun talaga yung nandun yung WH questions or pinaka mahalagang impormasyon. Pero iba dito sa editorial lead kasi it's not considered as the heart ng story. The heart could be in the middle or at the end, depending upon the whims and style of the editorial writer. So I hope guys na pag nagsusulat kayo, you will consider this in mind about the beginning, kung ano ba talaga yung lead. And always remember that yung kabuuan na sinusulat mong article, there should be a heart in it. Kung saan yung pinaka-thought or pinaka-favorite line na pwede makuha ng reader mo, or kahit ikaw, anong pinaka-favorite part ng ano na yon, that will serve as the heart of that editorial writing na ginagawa mo. It could be in the middle or at the end. And depending upon the whims and styles of editorial writer na yon. And remember that it must contain enough sparks to urge the readers to read the whole article. Diba kanina yung mga nabasa nating examples, sobrang gagaling ng mga writers kasi nagsaspark agad at for you to continue, nabasahin talaga yung sinulat nilang editorial writing. And a flat, dull, and dragging lead will readily turns readers away. So, yun talaga, discourage ka na agad. Kaya nga, yung ibang writers talaga, guys, if you will actually know, yung iba nga, sino ba tong author? I forgot the name of the authors, guys. Si ano ata yun. Basta sobrang sikat niya. Pagpili pa lang ng title niya, 1,000 or 900 times niya bago change kung anong pinaka-perfect title for his book. And yung iba din, I do love yung start. Kasi minsan guys, sumisikat ang isang gawa mo or sinulat mo, the way on how you started yung sinulat mo. From the story, yung ano ba tong novel na to? He just started, yung novel niya is Just Call Me Ishmael. Sino ba to? I forgot kung sino tong na to. Yung about sa whale yun si Ishmael. So, from that type of writing, di ba, sumikat talaga siya by just having that beginning. Just Call Me Ishmael. So, somewhat like dun din sa editorial lead. It should be something na nakukuha, nagiging catchy siya, at tapos na mas naaalala ng mga readers mo. Kasi, yun talaga yung pinakauna, parang pagsaserve ng pagkain lang yan, di ba? Mas pipiliin ng tao kung ano yung mas maganda sa tingin, hindi naman sa lasa Parang ganun din yan sa pagsusulat. So, we have to be careful. Start pa lang ay gagalingan na natin. And it does not have to follow the traditional 5 Ws and 1 H. The editorial writer has more freedom to display his creativity than the news writer in the writing of the lead. Kaya dapat pag editorial writer ka, mas creative ka talaga sa mga ideas na pinipresent mo. And the opening statement must be brief. It may be consist only of the news in which the editorial is based or the topic or problem to be taken upon. It may be emphatic statement or maxim. The law might be harsh, but it is the law. I love that one. And starting statement about the topic, patriot, orator, lawyer, martyr, that was Jose Abad Santos. I love it. And quotation then pwede rin, time is gold, so the saying goes. Education is the best provision for old age, such were the words of Greek philosopher Aristotle. So, ayan, nasa inyo na yun guys kung paano nyo mag-open, ano yung opening statement mo. Basta it should be brief enough and it should be catchy and appealing to your readers. Opening statements, narration, October saw a long and heated debate in the Constitutional Conventional. It could be an order, go out and vote. So it could be a question. Remember the legend of the poinsettia and the story of the sanctuary bells? Yan, magaling. So nasa inyo yan kung paano nyo. It could be poetic then. In the dark depths of man's labyrinth of fears may lie hidden a ray of hope, which man in his despair over other problems may have overlooked. Love it. Kaya mas creative talaga pag editorial writer. Meron ding prophecy, if nothing is done, We will wake up one day to find that there are not enough schools for our children. Reaction: never has the government been so concerned with labor as it is now. Yan. Yun mga example. Meron ding mixture of facts and opinions, guys. A news peg. Meron ding... Yan. Ayun. And then the body. The body should include the editorial's basic facts, the causes and effects behind incidents, situations, illustrations, and arguments. So, halos nito yung presenting of evidences. And then the drafting, writing the body. Remember that, guys, to keep an eye on the list of points you intend to discuss. Write without worrying whether the wording of each sentence is perfect, and leave plenty of room for rewriting. And lastly, for the conclusion part, the last part drives home the final important thought or direction. This conclusion may be in the form of advice, challenge, command, or just rounding out or a simple summary. But then, mas maganda rin yung ending mo. Diba? Tulad ng mga examples kanina, yung opening tsaka closing nila is ang lakas ng impact sa mga readers. And drafting, when you're writing the conclusion, if the editorial must have an impelling lead paragraph, it follows that it must have also a good ending, one that could literally clinch the ball game or end it with a bang, di ba? Mas maganda yon na kahit sa huli ay maganda yung effect, yung tipong una pa lang dapat nami-maintain mo talaga yung kagandahan ng sinusulat mo. And the writer must remember that the most emphatic positions are the beginning and the end. Lahat yan ang pinakamahalagang part talaga pagsusulat. Diba? Minsan, kahit pag nanonood tayo ng movies, diba? Kahit gaano pa yung kaganda na way na simula nila, tapos yung ending parang pangit sa atin. Parang masasabi natin na, ay, minsan yung tao, diba? Nagja-judge na lang na, ay, pangit naman ang movie na yun. Bakit parang sabing pangit? Kahit maganda naman pag-start, pero ang pangit ng ending na yan. Diba? It actually represent the whole product or the whole article. Kaya, we have to consider both the beginning and the ending. Of course, kahit sa body din, diba? Mas maganda rin na maganda yung pagka-present natin. And here are some typical last paragraphs, guys. We have Proverbs, my quotation then. You could state certain writer, a book by Dennis and Xingping Bloodworth offers us an insight into the ways of statecraft. We think this quotation from the book a timely reminder. A country or party should form a vertical united front with enemies who can be liquidated later in order to be able to destroy the enemy who must be liquidated now. So, nasa inyo na yan. Kung ano gusto nyo, pwede ding advice, comparison, pwede din siyang contrast. Or crusading, kailangan vote. Argumentative, we therefore urge the police, the local governments, the BAI, and the courts to crack down hard on dog thieves in the old American West. So, ayan, napaka-argumentative. So, ayan, kaya pag malalaman natin yan mamaya, guys, kung ano man yung mga characters na dapat meron isang editorial writer. So, dito sa pagiging argumentative, there's nothing wrong with that as long as you have evidences sa mga sinasabi nyo. All we have to do is to have the courage and be brave enough to really fight for what is right. And formal and stranded form, we hope it is not too late. It is about time the proper steps are taken. Conclusion, with these improvement programs, the people of Manila and suburbs are assured of good water supply and efficient service. After writing the draft, guys, revise your work, revise until you make it right and perfect. Add action and clarity to writing. Reread your draft carefully, pero mas maganda if you let others read it then kasi para they could see it in the new eyes. Minsan di natin napapansin kasi yung mali natin, lalo na pag sobrang nag-focus tayo or na-familiar na tayo sa ating mga sinusulat. In focus sentences, through parallelism and translation, rethink, re-evaluate, and rewrite. Of course, you have to rethink. You always ask why. Tama kaya itong ginagawa ko or sinabi na to? Is there a way na magiging mali yung thought or idea na to? So, you have always to rethink about it. And use transitions. Of course, maganda yan na may mga transition first, second, lastly, kasi that would make your work more professional at mas nagiging formal yung presentation mo ng mga ideas mo. And then, move sentences and add words and phrases. After writing the draft, guys, proofread and edit it. Concentrate on surface features you are writing. Check for clarity. Check for errors in grammar, punctuation, mechanics, and spelling. Tapos, before mo i-publish. Prepare a copy for print, broadcast, or electronic media. Follow style sheet, choosing a way to present your work with print, broadcast, or electronic media. Here are the tips for writers, for future writers like you guys. And if you don't want to be a writer of it, but still, hindi nyo mapipigilan if ever kayo yung mag-handle ng school paper in the end. Pag nagiging teacher na kayo, you still have to master or be familiar with this. A good editorial can focus on any topic as long as you can make a strong case for your opinion and write with your audience in mind. Kaya you actually write not just for yourself, but for your audiences or para sa readers mo. Focus on why a reader should care about your issue as well as why someone might have different opinions. And understand both sides of an issue will make your editorial interesting to a wide variety of audiences. So maganda yung nakikita mo yung both part ng yung mga nagdi-disagree at saka nag-agree din. Use these tips to make your editorial as convincing and relevant as possible. Kasi mas convincing talaga pag wala kang kinikilingan dun sa sinusulat mo. And you are providing relevant na mga information and be decisive. Your editorial needs to take a firm position on your choosing topic anytime you mention an opposing view. And why is it explained, why is it incorrect, and why readers should agree with you instead. Convince readers to consider your ideas by displaying confidence in your stance. So, be confident. Kasi nakikita din yun ng readers. Nararamdaman din nila yan once they read your work. Offer new ideas during the research process, guys. See if there are any aspects to your issue that others have not yet discussed. Kasi pag marami na nga nagsusulat about it, di ba, masyadong familiar na yung tao, hindi na sila gustong babasahin yun. But once you present them something na hindi pa na-discuss ng ibang writers, that would really be appealing to others, lalo sa readers natin. And while anyone can have an opinion, adding something new to a discussion will actually show that you have put careful thought in your piece. Pinag-iisipan mo talaga yung ginagawa mo. And that's what originality or creativity is. Minsan, may mga bagay na natural naman na nangyayari. It's nature na, but then other people are not discussing about it. Pero pag may isang tao na nagde-discuss or may magaling na writer talaga that will talk about it and will get the attention of the readers, it will surely make your work more interesting at mas marami kang readers na nakukuha or mas marami kang nape-persuade na mag-agree sa'yo. And then provide solutions, guys. If you draw attention to an issue in an editorial, provide possible solutions to the problem. Ito yung sinasabi ko, huwag tayo mag-focus dun sa problem na pinakita or sa issue na yun. We have to give some solutions to the problem. Dapat yun yung focus natin kasi ikaw yung serve as an eye-opener and you are asking those readers to do something, to make some change. And focus on your interest, guys. Di ba kanina, personal interest. Pero dito, about focusing interest, iba naman yung meaning to. Whenever possible, choose a topic that you're passionate about. Passionate in a way na marami kang nalalaman about it. Tapos, kasi mas marami kang nalalaman sa isang bagay, mas maganda naman talaga isulat yon. You cannot write something editorial about being a parent kung ikaw mismo wala ka pang sarili mong anak. So you have to be careful, guys. And your writing will reflect that you actually care about the issue, making your paper more interesting to read and more relevant to readers. Mas maganda yung you're passionate at mas maalam ka na dun sa certain topic na yon. For example, you as future educators, if you want to talk about education, di ba mas marami na kayong masasabi or marami na kayong nalalaman about it. So that would really make your writing more interesting. Kasi pag nababasa ng reader, maraming alam, maraming experiences na to about dito sa certain issue na to. Okay guys, after you write ng editorial, no, you have this checklist to evaluate your work. I hope na i-apply din ninyo ito pagkatapos yung gawin yung activity nyo. When you have finished writing a tutorial, check it with the following list of questions. If you can answer yes to all of them, you may be sure that you have an effective editorial. Your no answers will suggest points that need improvement. So, let's take a look. So, ano-ano man to. So, sana magamit nyo to at sana yes na lahat yung magiging sagot ng mga questions nyo para makita nyo talaga na effective yung ginawa nyong editorial writing. Are the form and style appropriate for the content and the purpose? So, pag ang content mo ba ay para sa certain people na to, for students? Kung maganda yung style mo at appropriate, yes, that would be great. Does it have a purpose and accomplish that purpose? So that's great. Does it make the reader think? Ganda yan. Does it reflect the reader's originality and ingenuity? So minsan pag once the readers will read, halimbawa kanina about love, diba? It will actually reflect yung writer's originality. Ang galing nun, di pa wala pa nakapagsulat ng gantong type of way of writing, diba? It would really make the readers think na napaka-appeal at napaka catchy yung ginawa niya, and that would make that certain writing na mahalaga sa'yo or maganda. I even do that, guys, honestly, na pag sa newspaper, if I read something na kakaiba, uy, ang ganda ng sinabi ni itong writer na to, I actually keep it in my notebook, sinusulat ko kung sino nagsabi, or minsan ginugupit ko pag yung mga newspaper lang naman na minsan nababasa mo lang galing sa di ba sa mga palengke, merong mga certain product na nilalagyan lang nila ng ganun. So, I actually keep it. Tapos, that what makes, parang magiging pag-editorial writer ka kasi pag nakita ng ibang readers na ganun kakagaling, they will actually keep your work. At, hindi mo man alam, pero others will actually appreciate it. So, wala namang taong hindi nakaka-appreciate sa mga bagay na sobrang ganda talaga at napaka-creative. And is the diction exact, not ambiguous? Kasi minsan huwag nating gawing nakakalito yung mga sinasabi natin sa article natin. And does the editorial reflect clear, logical thinking? Kasi nga, parang lawyer ka dito na nagpe-present ng thoughts mo. It should be something na maraming matutunan yung mga readers natin. Does it give evidence of accurate knowledge? May ebidensya ka ba? Or is it obvious naman already for the readers? Kasi alam nila na totoong nangyayari naman talaga currently or totoong nangyayari sa buhay o sa realidad. Does it sound sincere? Sincere ba yung sinusulat mo? In that way, you are really talking with your reader. And does the opening sentence employ the principles used in any good sales letter? Diba, dapat una pa lang, ganda na yung pag-present mo ng mga ideas mo for that writing. And then, are the paragraphs comparatively short? Huwag nating masyadong habaan kasi baka antukin or maboboring yung readers natin. Is the editorial brief unpointed? Is the subject matter of significance to students or reader? Does it have a real or artificial news peg? Does the editorial make its point without preaching? Di dapat tayo nag-preach kasi iba yun. We are just presenting our point. Okay? And guys, let's share this moment with John Ox from New York Times. According to him, guys, na if a newspaper were a living thing, as I think it is, its news content may be the lifeblood. The front page may be its face, but its editorials, guys, its criticisms and commentary are its very soul. So, congrats sa mga editorial writers kasi kayo daw yung soul ng ang newspaper. And when the editorials are flabby, complacent, or responsible, then the newspaper has lost its soul and also its character. So, kung mawala yung editorial writers na yan, there's no such thing as character na meron ang isang newspaper. So, huwag tayo maging flabby or responsible, lalo na sa pagsusulat natin. Okay? So, I know you are already doing your job well. And we have here the qualities of editorial writer, guys. Good in grammar, intelligent, with strong education talaga. Kasi how can you persuade other people if even you, di ba, yung credentials mo or yung um, way of thinking mo ay magkaiba naman. So, mostly, yung mga kinukuha sa mga newspaper, national newspapers talaga, ay magagaling or mga distinguished na tao. Kasi they know that they already have the strong education, can write with one idea in mind. Yan, one idea in mind. Dapat hindi tayo pa iba-iba ng mga inisip or ginagawa sa pagsusulat, lalo na pag sa editorial na article. Always in good faith when he or she goes into print. So, always believe lang, trust the process na alam mo magugustuhan ng readers yung sinusulat mo. And you have to be curious enough. You always have to check other topics. Hindi naman pwedeng lagi education na ipipresent pa si editorial writer. But of course, you should be curious enough with the other topics. And you have to read, research, and read bago ka makapag-write. Kasi you have to be familiar first with the topic before you could write about it. And combine honesty and fair. Be fair. Always be fair, guys. Kaya dapat you have to take a look both sides, lalo na pag mga certain issues, kasi pangit yun pag may kinikilingan tayo. And good in grammar. I already provided it earlier. I explained it. So here's another one, guys, as editorial writer. A good writer approaches an editorial like an audition. So parang nag-audition ka talaga pag ikaw yung good writer or editorial writer. He carefully composes and arranges sentence, paying close attention to the lyrical nature of his words. Dapat naririnig natin or nakikita din natin yung mga sinasabi natin. A good writer discovers and develops his own ideas. Of course, we should avoid copying other ideas kasi sabi nga kanina, mas appealing yun pag you are actually sharing something that others don't know yet or hindi pa masyadong nade-discuss. And he is an excellent researcher, taking note of everything that improves the quality of his information. So, mas maganda talaga if you are a writer, you always keep on reading kasi reading talaga is the best secret, guys, to be a great writer. And he searches for off-beat topics and avoid conventional assignments that provide videos. He is an excellent researcher. A good writer spends his energy perfecting the lead of his story. Yung lead pa lang, guys. Una pa lang talaga, dapat i-perfect mo yan. At hindi lang sa beginning, kahit sa end ha, perfect nyo. And he understands his audience is judging him and uses his fear for his advantage. So, be careful. Huwag tayong, may mga tao talagang ganun na nakikita yung mga pagkakamali natin. But then, we just have to keep, to have faith and to believe kung ano man sinulat natin. Kasi of course, other people will surely agree at alam naman natin na napapersuade din natin sila. And honesty as basic premise, guys. A good editorial writer bases her views on a true premise. Everything stemming from the premise is rooted in facts and truth. A bad editorialist, a cherry, picks the facts that convenient to the case that she's trying to make. So, iwasan natin yan. You should be honest enough. Tapos, a good writer uses all the facts and may even change her opinion editorial accordingly. Kasi minsan may thinking na tayo, hypothesis na tayo na, ay, oo, lagi naman ganun, hindi naman maganda talagang effect about it. But, once you become an editorial writer, you keep on reading something, nagre-research ka talaga, minsan yung opinion mo ay nagbabago base dun sa mga facts na na-research mo. So, you should always be open-minded for it, for the changes. Ha, lalo na. Kaya yung sinasabi kanina na we should avoid personal interest. Kasi minsan, clouded yung mind natin, hindi nakikita natin yung mga tama na dapat gawin or mga dapat na paniwalaan. But then, if you keep on researching naman, there are things, hayaan mo na magkaroon ng changes or maging open-minded tayo for others' ideas. Lalo na dun sa mga validated na talaga ng ideas or information. Editorialists worth their salt must be willing to leave the editorial with a completely different view than they brought into it. That's what the facts support. Totoo yan, guys. Pag editorial writer ka, pag umalis ka man doon, leave the editorial, you should have a completely different view. Kaya gusto ko talaga magbabasa. Kaya sana kayo din ay nagbabasa din tayo ng mga editorial type of writing ng mga articles. Kasi in that way, there are sometimes napapersuade sa galing talaga ng editorial writing ay nagkakaroon tayo ng completely different view about things. And we should be open-minded about it. Open-minded in a way na nasa tama. And integrity, guys, a good editorialist give their opinion while keeping in mind that they're representing their organization. Ito, guys, kaya pag ikaw yung writer, hindi lang ikaw, halimbawa, sa school ka nagsusulat. Kaya you have to edit talaga. Dapat na-check or napaproofread yung gawa nyo. Kasi makikita ng ibang tao, oy, ito yung sinulat ng mga estudyante dito sa specific na school na yun. Mali-mali naman yung sinasabi or wala naman sa point. So, there should always be an integrity. Representing tayo ng organization natin. Upholding the journalistic integrity of their publisher is just as important as their own integrity. So, hindi lang natin sariling iniisip natin, but even the integrity of the school or organization kung saan tayo nagre-representa. And this means meeting their deadlines, delivering consistent quality because they are representative of their organization. So, arise from saying the wrong thing. And we have this synthesizing information then, guys. While the information presented on the premise of an editorial should be rooted in fact, the points of an editorial is to synthesize the information to present a new view. Think of the facts as the ingredients and the editorial as the mixing with their author's signature style to create the main course. The editorial may become the basis of new facts for other writers. Totoo yan, guys. Minsan, the best talaga pag editorial writer ka and then you provide lots of information and then yung conclusion mo is based doon sa mga valid evidences mo. That would actually be a basis for new facts for other writers. So, para sa kanila, mag-a-agree na sila, or according to ganito ganyan, he is an editorial writer of this type of article na to. Maganda yung pagkasulat niya. And it could serve as, gagamitin din ng mga researchers. Kasi, once it's published naman talaga, di ba, that's already a fact. And good editorialists, guys, present their opinion in a balanced way while being mindful of the facts. So, maging mindful pa rin tayo sa mga facts na alam natin. And lastly, guys, for the style and the voice, good editorial writer develop a voice all of their own. Ayun nga, pinaka-favorite ko talaga na editorial writer ay yung tatay ni Cara David, si Randy David, guys. Kasi grabe, meron talaga siyang he developed a voice of his own. Mapapansin mo kahit minsan di mo alam kung sa sobrang galing niya, sa sobrang familiar ko din kung paano siya magsulat, ay makikita mo na kahit di nakasulat yung pangalan, ay ganito magsulat si Randy David Yung meron siyang, wala siyang kinikilingan, pero pag babasahin mo siya, somewhat like meron, na mapapersuade ka na lang, oo nga, tama siya, dapat pala ganito. So, sometimes after reading his writings talaga, my point of view really changed kasi magaling siya. Yung voice niya talaga yung magandaan, yung style of writing. The voice actually informs the context of the article as well as the author. People know when they read a piece by a certain author or when an author is merely mimicking another writer's voice. So be careful tayo dapat. We should have our own voice. And this voice is the author's personal style composed with a delicate consideration of word choice. Kaya nga, di ba, may mga choices doon kung anong style na gusto mo. Kung gusto mo bang maging informative enough sa mga magbibigay ng information sa readers mo, or if you are more into criticism, ikikritik mo yung ibang work, or you are very appreciative enough na pinipraise mo yung mga taong dapat i-praise. And that is, the writer should keep himself in the background. He must do his while still presenting a voice that is recognizably his own. Mas maganda talaga yung parang marinig ng readers mo, oy, ganito nga magsulat si parang mga painters, diba? Pag si Rembrandt, alam na agad na pag ang paintings ay may somewhat like light sa gilid, parang may sinag ng araw na konti. Diba si Rembrandt na yan? Parang ganun din sa writers. Yung unang basa pa lang, uy, alam ko na kung sinong writer nito. O si pala yung pinaka-writer, siya nagsulat. So that's how effective, guys, kung meron kang style and your own voice. Kasi that would make you more interesting. Tapos aabangan talaga ng mga readers yung mga susunod na isusulat mo. So, that's it guys for this discussion about editorial writing. I hope na makakasulat na kayo ng sarili niyong writing on your own. So, next year ko na yan hingin or yung requirements na to or assignment na to. So, I hope you learn a lot. So, here are the references guys. You could check it in the description also and if you want to learn more about it. Okay? Or kung gusto niyo makuha. But I'll be uploading this din naman, PowerPoint presentation to our classroom. So, thank you so much guys for finishing this video.